one that makes you lose.
So we're going to be going into game number 3 here to decide who's going to be moving on between these two players, guys. Tied up at 1-all. CJ enters Hero going up against a StarTale PartinG. The map will be Cloud Kingdom. Let's get into the game.
Both of them didn't know what the other was doing. They wanted to know if DTs might be coming because they were skipping robotics facility. And the only way to check it is to send your Phoenix early. But if you run into other Phoenixes, you lose it. So what do you do, man? Stargate versus Stargate was exactly the same time. If you don't scout, you lose to DTs potentially. If you do scout, you lose to the mirror.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit where a bit of a gamble comes in. Ideally, you would fly not straight over the middle of your opponent's base, around. Like try to touch and then go back. Yeah. Touch and then go back and see if maybe you can see the Stargate.
No, that's a really good point, because once, like you mentioned in that last game, once you go down a single Phoenix, especially earlier on in the game, okay, 10 versus 11, maybe not so much of a problem, but you still have to get there first, and in the meantime, you're playing 4 versus 3. And obviously, in that situation, the guy with 4 Phoenixes wants to be a lot more aggressive. It gets harder to avoid him. So, no, that's a really, really good point you bring up there.
Yeah, so let's see what's going to happen now, man. We see a chrono boost for both players. That means no 10 or 11 gauge shenanigans. We've seen quite a bit of this during this tournament. Spider Ash was doing it. We've seen Liquid Hero do it. We won't be seeing it right now.
Yeah, so no ultra early gateway from either of these guys. And after, I'm presuming a little bit unexpected play in the previous game. I don't think either of them expected the other guy to go Stargate.
Yeah.
I don't think either of them went into saying, right, I'm going to play Phoenix versus Phoenix. That was a little bit of a gamble, like you said, from both sides, with PartinG ultimately not able to convert.
Of course, the gamble part is whether you scout or not. That's the really tough decision. The Stargate itself does lend itself to a variety of different strategies. And
it was really knife edge.
It's fun, man. It's very knife edge. And it's fun to see those two builds against each other, because we don't often see PvPs developing that way.
No, that's absolutely true. So it'll be interesting to see whether these guys are a little bit more diligent about scouting each other early game in this time around. We have seen Stargates, of course, on this map before, so it's possible. I wonder if both of them would go again. I think that would be pretty extraordinary if we had both players go for Stargate twice in a row.
So I've done it before on Cloud Kingdom. It's not the ideal map because of the Blink Observer builds that sometimes happen. Yeah. If you don't die very early, it's very okay. Blink is not actually a counter build against Phoenixes, but sometimes if you're a little bit out of position with something and they blink up your ramp, you can just die like that, and it feels a little bit silly. For now, their builds are exactly the same. PartinG is scouting with that probe, and Hero is not. They are both maximizing on their economy, on their gas, and getting a 2-gate opener.
Yeah, second gases have completed for both players, of course. We have the probe from PartinG nearing the ramp of Hero, so he's going to be able to pop in and scout and know that Hero's build order is more or less exactly the same as his as it currently stands. He's not going to see anything out of the ordinary whatsoever. And in the meantime, both sides now going to be grabbing their stalkers.
PartinG is mining with 5 probes off of gas instead of 6. I wonder if it's measured out or if it's a mistake. We'll know soon enough to see if that probe gets added. Yeah, it already got added, so most likely it was just an element of his build. Hero is going to add a Twilight Council before starting a second and third Stalker. That is a mind game. That is, I mean, normally you see second and third Stalker, then Twilight. I like doing this, man, because your opponent sees 2 gates, says, okay, you're going to go for that tried and tested triple Stalker rush out. And then you don't. And your opponent still gives you the respect as if you had it, but you don't have it, so you basically just get a faster Twilight in return, and that's pretty cool. Anytime you can take a risk and have it pay off like that.
Well, PartinG certainly not sitting on his laurels here, because he has a forward pylon already going down on the right-hand side of the map there, so preparing for a little bit of pressure later on. We have got Hero now adding the robotics facility down as well, so in addition to that Twilight Council, perhaps we'll be seeing some Blink Observer play.
Yeah, Blink Observer play is looking likely in the extreme right now. PartinG, however, is going for a 2-gate and a robotics facility, and has not built a Twilight Council. So he's just on the 2 gates. He has a total of 3 Stalkers on the map. Gonna warp in 2 more, so he does 5 Stalker pressure. Oh, okay, I've seen this build. 5 Stalker pressure into denying the most risky expansions. Then you make 2 sentries at home. Then you make 2 more sentries at home and an Observer and an Immortal, and you expand. That's, I think, what's going to happen. because Hero is going to give him a lot of respect right now. 5 Stalkers will be 3 Stalkers. And oh, is he actually going to move in? Right now he could. He doesn't know, but he could.
Oh, wow, the probe getting taken down as well. These 2 more Stalkers getting warped in, but one of those Stalkers is on super low health. And now PartinG looks like he's forfeiting the high ground at the moment. Is he going to allow the pylon to finish? Will he actually get it in there? No, it does get cancelled.
Oh, he cancels it. Wow. I feel like maybe if he warped in 2 more units, he might have been able to win the Stalker war. There was just 5 Stalkers, and there was no cooldown yet for Hero. But that was, I mean, you can see how good these players are. A lot of players will say, okay, I'm just going to try it. I'm going to trade my units with yours, and hopefully I come out ahead. Neither player did that here. They didn't lose a single Stalker in that exchange. Yeah. Very nice micro. PartinG taking mostly only shield damage. Hero almost lost a Stalker but saved it. And for now, PartinG decides not to go for the 4 sentries that I said because he saw the amount of Stalkers. So he knows it's going to be mass blink Stalkers, and he wants to make the Stalkers of his own. Very nice there, killing that observer, denying any kind of high ground blink-ins, and that allows PartinG to defend his own ramp.
Trying to warp in some units potentially on the high ground. There was Hero, but the probe got taken up pretty quickly, and the pylon, as a consequence, also got cancelled from. We have got the Nexus now going down for both players, with PartinG on a slightly faster expansion. They are completely even on worker supply at the moment, and overall, PartinG is at 50 supply to the 45 of CJ Enter's Hero.
And I'm sure we'll come right back after this. Hopefully there won't be any problems. Indeed, we have 27 against 28 workers with PartinG 1 in the lead. His expansion is about half a Nexus earlier, but he doesn't have Blink. They're both working on Sentries and Immortals. Yeah. Hero already has Blink, so he needs to try and leverage that. If you look at it very simply, right? All the advantages in PartinG's court, except he doesn't have Twilight or Blink. So Hero needs to use that to get back the advantage.
Exactly, and PartinG's going to try and establish his Nexus and really get that mining sooner so we can squeeze out an economic advantage over Hero. Let's see if he is able to do that. Hero's Nexus as well, about 7/8 of the way done, so PartinG's going to have a small head start. Not the most massive head start in the world, of course, but everything matters, especially in a mirror matchup. And we have an Immortal coming out now from CJ Enter's Hero.
Now, PartinG's greatest strength and weakness in the PvP matchup is his love for Blink Stalk. Okay, whatever. He's gonna make Rebel Bay. I was gonna say, in situations like these, he often goes like 68 Blink, and even though his micro is very good, it's not the best long-term build in PvP. So
no, you want to try and do substantial damage with some sort of timing.
Like you can't just keep making Blink Stalkers till Kingdom Come. You need to go for Colossi eventually, and that's sometimes something that has been flooring PartinG in his PvPs. However, he's making that Robo Bay, and in fact this Robo Bay is ahead of Heroes, so this is going to be a game that doesn't get decided in the next few minutes, and we are entering the realm of macro PvP.
We are indeed. PartinG is going to have a small lead, potentially, in the number of Colossi he'll have out on the field. His Robotics Bay has just finished, and the Robo Bay for Hero is only halfway done at the moment. PartinG also going to be finishing up a Forge, potentially, for those upgrades pretty soon as well. Again, a little bit further ahead of what Hero is going to do. But looks like is that another Robo Bay on the way for Hero already?
Yeah, Hero is making 2 robotics facility from his base, so that he can catch up.
Yeah, he can catch up using this, and he'll be able to get onto 2. In fact, he'll be able to catch up just quite quickly because PartinG will basically be 1 Colossus ahead. And and now he's going to be starting his second Robo Bay as well. So by the time they both get 2 Colossi, it looks like they'll be more or less even.
Yeah, it looks like they'll be just about dead even. If we look at the units tab, 45 probes each, 2 observers each, 2 Immortals, 3 Immortals, 8 Stalkers, 1 Sentry, 2 Sentry. I don't really need to say who is who, right? Yeah. They got pretty much everything the same.
And extended thermal lands, possibly identical down to about 2 seconds as well.
Yeah. So the way that this works out usually, you go up to about 8 or 10 Colossi, and then you add a few more Immortals, and you also add Charged Zealots and Archons. Yeah. And if you're playing PvP in Europe, there will be an adding of the Mothership very soon after. If you're playing Korean PvP, there will be a timing attack on 200 supply.
Interesting. So what would you say the main differences between that European approach and the Korean approach?
I think Koreans are generally, always have been, in all the RTSs, Warcraft 3, StarCraft 1, StarCraft 2, more aggressive. That's why they choose to attack on 200 supply, and Europeans are like, maybe it's because they don't see a window to kill the opponent, because they don't multitask enough, or it's because it's just a cultural difference, because that defensive play, for some players, it works out really, really well, even when going up against Koreans. It's not necessarily inferior just because Koreans are playing that way.
Wow.
And European PvP can measure itself very well with Korean PvP, I believe. And sometimes defending, if you don't find an avenue of attack, getting that mothership is a huge advantage.
Yeah, and this is actually really interesting. So CJ here actually going for his third Nexus here, Grubby. And it's already halfway done, and PartinG looking like he'll be doing the same a little bit later. A very back and forth between these guys. The production tabs and the building tabs are looking strikingly similar every time we look at them. But PartinG is going to be the one who scouts first. That Hero's actually put his third base down a little while ago, and I think he's going to attempt to do a little bit of damage. Can he force a cancel here?
I think Hero has enough to poke away at him and save that Nexus. He should have Warpins closer to him, and he also has Blink, right? Hero also has Blink, so he has a little bit more micro potential in this engagement.
And the Colossi just doing a little bit of potshot damage on the Nexus, making sure it doesn't recharge its shields, forcing Hero to perhaps engage a little bit sooner than he otherwise would have liked. But we do have additional Colossi popping out. It's no longer 3 versus 3. Hero has Colossi numbers 4 and 5 joining his army as well. And ooh, so does PartinG. So now in the middle of the map, the distances to the armies are relatively the same for both, and we have a lot of Colossi going down, but Hero's Concave's been pretty good. His Colossi have been firing almost non-stop.
Okay, wow, and they just reset all of each other's gateway in a Mortal army, losing no Colossi.
Losing no Colossi.
Yeah, so funny. Everything died. They still
the Colossi are friends. They don't want to hurt each other, but they'll kill everything else.
Nice friends.
Yeah,
nice hobby they have.
Well, PartinG does have 2 Colossi on orange and yellow health, whereas Hero's Colossi do tend to be a little bit more healthy. Probably not that big a difference, though. I mean, I think they're still full health. I'm not sure if any of them have taken hull damage. Probably not. We'll see if that makes a difference later.
Oh my god, they're playing it so similar. The charge timings, the Templar Archives, the third base, the amounts of units that they're doing, it's so sick. 7 Colossi both now, 3 Stalkers for PartinG, 1 for CJ Hero. PartinG has started to make more Colossi, whereas Hero has started to make double Immortal right now, getting Zealots and more Gateways and Templar Archives. So similar. And in that fight there, you could see how both of them were just frying each other's Gateway and Immortal armies and keeping their Colossi alive. I thought it was a risky attack by PartinG, but it worked out well for him.
And the Colossi now moving out towards the center of the map from Hero. He's not terribly worried about an ambush from a Gateway army because he knows he just killed all of those units. So he's just moving out with the Colossi right now and picking off a forward pylon. Nice job of him there. And PartinG is now starting to get some units at the third base location. We actually see an Archon with this composition as well. So he's slowly moving up to a more desirable end game sort of composition here. And Hero, in the meantime, is looking to see if he can do a bit of harassment at the third base.
In the meantime, there are pylons for PartinG in the top left and a little bit to the right of the top left position. He's warping into Zealots. They're going to go into the third base. Ideally, the fight would start in earnest as those Zealots go in so that Hero would be completely distracted. It's not the case, though. I see the probes on the minimap running away at that third base. That must mean that Hero has no Warpins right now to defend himself. Whoa!
Hero had such a nice spread at the bottom of that ramp, managing to get so many pot shots out. The Colossi are on such low hit points, but now we have the Archons facing off against each other as well. Who's going to come out on top? 115 to 121 supply, and we have got a warp in of Zealots for PartinG to try and tank a little bit more damage, and it looks like that is going to be forcing Hero back at this time.
Wow, it's so close between these guys. The units lost tab shows identical amounts. Hero has a little bit less probes, but let's look at this fight first. It doesn't look like there's enough mid shield here on the Colossi for PartinG. Hero pushing forward, but now suddenly there's charge Zealots and the tables turn. This is insane, John. PartinG is now 20 supply up and he's chasing with those Zealots. Will another Colossi be going down? Yeah, what a Hero Zealot. He chased that Colossus down, and suddenly Hero is down quite a bit.
Whoa, a second Colossus going down there. That was
One
huge.
Zealot killing 2 Colossi.
MVP Zealot right there, man. And but the supplies are still 112 to 109. These guys are in a boxing match, absolutely slugging it out with each other. And this really is a super close game.
It's such a close game. These guys are so well matched. If there was any less well matchedness, we'd be looking at the score screen right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the really well done on that Zealot, though. The smallest advantages, like we saw with the Phoenixes, could end up being a huge difference here. And that Zealot taking apart 2 Colossi as PartinG, as Hero moved back out across the map. could end up playing a pretty good role. What are the Colossi numbers looking like right now for both
Colossi
players?
numbers right now, we have 2 in production for Hero on top of his already 4, and PartinG has 5.
5, okay.
So it's going to shift just a little bit in Hero's favor.